Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for a rather jubilant edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Feels a little weird to say that because I'm old enough to remember when a Game 1 series victory was not something to be celebrated. It was something to be expected. My co-host, of course, knows very little of such things because he is a much younger man than I. So, Jeremy Cohen, I will ask you, with the benefit of youth and perhaps some naivety on your side, how are you feeling today? It's, by the way, I should say it's Sunday night as we are recording this.
Woo! Woo! Let's go! That's how I'm feeling, John. That was incredible. It was exhilarating. You know, after the watch party, Kevin Danishevsky, fan of the pod, he said that was the best Knicks game he's ever seen. And I heard him, and I was like, "Yeah, I hear you. That's like for sure."
He's like 22, though, right?
Somewhere around there.
Whereabouts?
25, maybe. But okay. Even still, I was thinking like, yeah, all right, sure. And I thought about it. I was like, wait, that might be the best Knicks game I have also seen in since I've been a fan for 20 years. Because going back, it's like, well, it wasn't 2021 when the Hawks game happened because the Knicks were already down 1-0.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in 2013 when the Knicks beat the Pacers because they were already down, right?
Yeah,
they were favored at least.
Yeah,
so,
and they were so, I think. Well, I'm trying to remember going back to the Celtics series. They were favored,
right?
But like it was still it was like the last vestiges of like that Celtics team. So there was a little bit of like, the Celtics are gonna give us problems, and then.
But that was the thing. The clincher felt more like relief than it did. We got this. They wear the all black. They roll into Boston like a funeral. Yeah. And games 1 and 2, just again, it felt like those were games you should be winning anyway. Game 3 as well, nice. So you have to then go back further than that, and it's kind of silly to think that the Knicks winning against Miami to stave off elimination for their first win in over 10 years, that was a big thing because there was confetti on the floor.
The confetti,
but at the same time, it's like, well, again, it's still 3-1. You're not going to overcome LeBron James. It's not going to happen. And then I don't really remember a lot of playoff experiences that happened between then and say 2002. So this had to have been the best one, and it certainly felt good, and it was great to watch it among a lot of people. And yeah, it was a great one.
So I'm glad it was so shout out to everybody who went to the watch party at Penn 6. I from the videos of the event, I could tell you guys had a grand time. And for anybody wondering, there's no other watch party currently scheduled. We will hopefully be able to do another one of these things. The Knicks will have to cooperate and maybe stick around the playoffs for a little bit. But yeah, we're going to talk about that on this show. I think it is the biggest Knick win. I don't want to completely gloss over 2013. Because I understand this is different than what I asked you. What I asked you was like in terms of like how you're feeling after the victory. That's a little bit different than like biggest wins because the Pacers series in 2013 did still go 6 games, and like game 2 was a big game to try to get that series back on the rails. I maybe one of those 2 wins in that series, but I don't know. This one, the way they did it, and obviously the fact that it was on the road, and we're going to talk about kind of some plays in the fourth quarter that stood out, but it had a vibe. For me personally, it's the best I've felt about a win since 2000, Game 7 against the Heat in the Eastern Conference semifinals, which will perhaps come up again in the show. So feeling pretty good.
Yes, to go back to the original question, I'm feeling very good about this. Yeah. It's a high quality win. I would have been happy with just 1 of 2, right? There's still another game to be played, so we'll see. But if you had told me, all right, the Knicks could then walk out of Cleveland with no wins, I would have thought tough, but it's not gone yet. There's still the majority of the games are going to be still in New York. Can figure it out.
Let's stick with that.
We don't have to worry about that though. That's the beauty of it.
No, let's stick with that for a second, because we talk often about on this show about moving goalposts and what have you. I feel like there's already a sentiment. Maybe it's just Robert Cross always being in my ear, but I don't think it's just him. I do feel like there's already a sentiment of like, man, if they could come out and like, mean it from the tip off in game 2, all the pressures on Cleveland. I'm not there right now, but then again, I'm Debbie Downer, I think. So I don't know if I'm the best person to ask, but like, I'd like to see another. I'd like to see a hard-fought game in game 2. It'd be great if it came down to the fourth quarter. Obviously, if it comes down to the very end and they lose, we're going to be sitting here, and you could contextualize it all you want. We're going to be disappointed. I'm not expecting a win. I'll say that. Would I be pleasantly surprised? But yeah, I'm not expecting a win.
Well, the whole thing, and what I was disappointed with when we recorded was I didn't want the feeling to be hopelessness, because it really was not that. It was really just respecting the Cavs as a great team.
Yeah.
But what was lost in that a bit, and I should have done a better job of this, the Knicks are still a great team.
Yeah.
And so they're well matched. The games are really fun. We have seen, the Knicks have won 4 straight games against the Cavs this season. And the game that they lost was inspired by Kevin Love, who is no longer on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Quentin Grimes wasn't playing, and the whole beginning of the season was quite a mess. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at, where it's just like, you saw how close that game got, and it could have swung one way or the other. Fortunately, it swung the way of the Knicks. Hopefully it continues to go that direction, but it just goes to show how neck and neck these teams are, that makes it such a fun competitive series. But to us, it's fun because we're the ones who can say our team is 1-0, and Cavs fans are not able to do that.
Yeah, and like if I was a Cavs fan right now, I'm not sure I'd be quaking in my boots. I think the most significant thing to come out of, well, I think there are a few things, maybe that's significant things to come out of Cleveland in game 1. For starters, I do think, as we and many others highlighted before the series started, the lack of depth is a real thing. Now, do I expect Caris LeVert to shoot 1 of 7 again? He's the big one that stands out for me, because that guy, but he runs hot and cold. So like, you're going to get the 1 of 7, and then the next night you're going to get 8 of 12 or whatever it is. So like, Caris LeVert will have a game. Do I think Evan Mobley is going to go 4 of 13 again? I think he will continue to ease his way into this series in a positive way. So I do think you're going to get better contributions, while probably maintaining positive contributions from the likes of Mitchell and Garland. At the same time, you flip that on its head, and it's like, well, wait a minute. The Knicks can count on some better contributions from some of their players as well. And just to go back to the show that we did, and I want to add one other thing too about that. The thing I wanted to mention is, like, yes, the Cavs are a great team, but I also, and I'm going to spin this into a positive, so just give me a second. I don't think I actually said out loud in that show that we did, at least, that I didn't, for as much as I thought there were some ways in which the Knicks did match up with the Cavs pretty well, I also thought there was a very significant way that we did not match up well, which is that the Knicks don't have that one, ideally 2, but at least one big time apex wing defender that just screws everything up. And if you're going, and ideally 2-way wing, your Tatums and your Kawhis and your KDs and your LeBrons and Lukas and all of, I could go through the list. Knicks don't have one of those guys. That is the way that you screw up a team that is built around 2 small guards on both ends of the floor. The Knicks don't have that. And the one guy that the Knicks had that's kind of closest to that is RJ Barrett, who we expressed our fears. Sorry, Andrew's reminding me that Luka Doncic is not a 2-way wing. Thank you, Andrew, very much for that. Sorry for sneaking his name in there.
My goodness.
The voice of God.
My Luka love knows the best. Anyway, I'm going on and on. The point is, we don't have that guy. And because we didn't, that was a lot of where my doubt came from. What I had forgotten is that this team has shown over the course of the season in like long stretches, not consistently over the whole season, but consistently enough for long enough stretches that I shouldn't have forgotten this. They are capable of being a dynamic defensive team that could really screw up what you want to do, even with their perhaps imperfect personnel. And I think when you combine that, the fact that we saw them reach back and defend like we know that they are capable of, or at least I think I thought that they were capable of, and I maybe forgotten it. Combine that with the fact that the guys who didn't shoot it very well, to say nothing of Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, probably are gonna shoot it better. I think. Like, I think there's a lot of positivity on New York's side too. So I don't want to say that I'm overconfident, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more confident than I was before game one.
Well, you didn't even have to say anything about forget about the two-way wing, just an elite wing defender, because I brought it up. Because I had mentioned I was worried that this series was going to be exposing what the Knicks don't have, which is exactly that archetype, which they tried to find in Cam Reddish and didn't work out, which that's not what RJ Barrett's bread and butter is. So there still is the trade rumors. Well, but that's right. So, but then you have someone stepping up like Josh Hart, who is a very good defender, who, I mean, he hurts his ankle and then hits a pull-up three as the buzzer is about to go off. Like, wild. Just incredible. I got to tell you, the 23rd pick in the draft of 2023 didn't make a single shot last night. So, you live and you learn. But the best
that line coming out of your mouth, I'm sorry. That is like peak.
Thank you. So
that is elite.
And it's still early, right? Even if this series does not expose that, we know it's something the Knicks still need to configure one way or another. But they're doing everything else really well. And John, again, the stat that I and only I was responsible for, defensive rebounding with the Cavs.
Nobody else said it.
No one else said it.
You were all over it.
Everyone was thinking it, but no one was brave enough to say it.
But I did. Everybody else I did. Dropping the ball.
Yeah, So it's I agree, though. I'm at the point where it's like you can see there are 3 games left, 3 wins left. That's all you need. And yet there's only one and that you have in your pocket, and there are 6 games to be played. And it's hard for me not to get ahead of myself. It's hard for me not to look at Giannis Antetokounmpo has hurt his back and is missing time. Tyler Hero has broken his hand. But I can't do it. As tempting as it is,
I'm not there.
I just can't do it, because then I will just feel like you have to focus on the competition in front of you. And there's still a very good team, as we have discussed. So worry about later, worry about now.
The defeatist Knicks fan PTSD guy in me was thinking last night, I think I said this on the post game, like, okay, all we have to do is get one, what did I say? No, yeah, two more victories, and then we get to a game 7. So it's like you go,
hold on, that's not what you said, Jeremy. I'm actually gonna need you for this.
Wait, so what did I say?
What you said was
I said, so I know what you're gonna bring up. I was making a different point, but keep going.
What you said was like, all we need to do is win one of the next 3.
And it gets us to 2-2 after 4.
That's so like minimal. Like, how about this? Let's take 2 of the next 3. All you have to do is win 3 of the next 6, and you're in the conference, and you're in the next round.
I was fumbling this, but I want to get to a game 7. That was my goal before the series. Was like, just get it to game 7. Anything could happen in game 7. I still am of the mindset like, let's just get it to a game 7.
Hasn't jumped out the window yet, Jeremy.
Hasn't jumped out the window.
See, listen, I picked Cavs in 7, and I'm not gonna waffle, not because I don't have more confidence in the Knicks than I did beforehand, but just I made my prediction and I'll stick with it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not at the point where it's like, just get us to 7. I'm at the point, you've got 1. Go get the other 3.
Now go win.
And don't actually forget about the other 3. Go get the next one. Just get the 1. Keep building one by one. That's it. We can worry about 7 if we get to the point where it's 7.
So now I'll give you confidence, John. First of all, winner of road game 1. If the road team wins game 1, they win more than half of the series throughout NBA history. And I wasn't able to find a stat that let me know 8 versus 1, 7 versus 2, but I have to think specifically in 4-5 matchups, or maybe 4-5 and like 6-3 matchups. Like I would have to think the percentage is even better, but they win more than half the time. And then here's the fun one, and this is just kind of quirky. It's not dispositive of anything, but the Knicks since the 50s, so starting with basically the championship core and moving forward, have gone up, have won the game one on the road a dozen times throughout that time period, and they have won the series 9 of those dozen times. The only 3 losses happened at the hands of Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, and, as Andrew recalls very well, David Stern. Shout out 1997. We're not giving the Heat any credit for that. That was all David Stern. So yeah, historically as a franchise, they do pretty well in these situations, including, by the way, funny enough, twice against Cleveland. This has happened. They have won game 1 on the road twice against the Cavs, and they've gone on and actually swept the Cavs in both of those instances. Back when it was best of 3 and then best of 5. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think we should be feeling pretty good. I don't begrudge you for like, hey, let's go get the next one, because they should have that mentality. I'm sure that will be their mentality. I don't expect them to come out and like not play with the same intensity. It's just, it's these. I think these are 2 evenly matched teams. That's all. I think these are 2 evenly matched teams.
Agreed. And
I'll say that.
So far, first blood's been drawn.
Yes. First blood has been drawn. All right. So we are going to give out game ball and a detention. How does this work? Who gets to go first? I'm very confused.
I would imagine I get to go first because I won the season series.
So what, do you just get to go first in perpetuity now?
Yes, because here's the thing.
I won the season series.
We didn't get a chance to do this because the season ended and we didn't connect until Friday. But congratulations to Jeremy.
I said congratulations to him.
You tweeted it.
Yeah, but now we're on the pod together and you could say it to his face.
I thought I said it. I didn't say it.
Not yet. This is the first time we get to acknowledge
that. That's
second year in a row.
That's an oversight.
Predictions champion.
That's an oversight. Congratulations, Jeremy.
Thank you.
2 for 2. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Back to back.
I would have a speech prepared, but I'm going to let my winning do the talking.
The Tim Duncan approach.
You're a 16-game player, Jeremy. That's all there is to it.
That's 16-week player, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how many weeks. 25, something like that.
Too many.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be curious where you go with this one. So give out a game ball.
This is the thing. We don't even have. We're flying by the seat of our pants a little bit because usually we'd have the rundown players and
you know who's not a 16-game player?
Unbelievable.
Andrew Claudio's not a 16-game player. Completely dropped the ball. Usually gives us all sorts of candidates. Nope, not tonight.
This is an easy one. Don't worry. I know who I'm going with. It's going to be Josh Hart. Josh Hart deserves the game ball. I mean, just talk about a performance. We often talk about playoff experience and how that impacts players. Josh Hart's 28 years old? First playoff game? You wouldn't know.
28? You might be right on that.
Yeah, he's a 95 baby. So just the fact that he was able to put all that aside, you got, Grimes obviously had some of his difficulties. That was his first playoff game. Mitchell Robinson wasn't maybe doing his best first playoff game as well. So to put that in perspective of what Hart in his first game, setting everything aside, the effort, the impact, the rebounding, the transition. I mean, the Knicks really excelled in transition this game. I think cleaning the glass out of them is like the 98th percentile. So on a night where they just really were not shooting the ball well, that was where they flourished. And that's just something Josh Hart does. He's just phenomenal in transition. Heart and soul in a lot of ways, no pun intended, or pun intended, take it however you want, of this team in so many ways, closing every single game when he's healthy, which is every single game pretty much. So he's got to have it. He's got to have the game ball. And I'm so happy he's a Knick.
Well said. None to add there. Other than just, it was clear he was the player of the game before the shot that we're going to talk about again in a moment. And then he hit the biggest shot of the game and maybe in quite a bit longer. The easy choice here is Jalen Brunson. It's funny, 27 points in a road playoff victory doesn't sound that crazy, right? Well, We talked about important, big wins and this and that over the course of recent history. No Knick has had 27 points in a road playoff victory since 1999. Latrell Sprewell was the last one that did it. And in fact, throughout the entire course of Knick history, there have only been before Jalen Brunson, there have only been 10 players to do it, and all the names. They are all legends, and Jalen Brunson adds himself to that list. I'm not choosing Jalen Brunson though. I'm choosing Julius Randle. Randle, look, we don't know how hurt he was. We can choose to believe what the Knicks told us, which is that he wasn't taking contact as of 2 days before this game. I'll believe it. That he wasn't taking contact. Now, were they being like extra cautious, and they knew all the while they're like, well, he doesn't really need to take contact. There's no reason to risk it, but he's going to be good to go. Whatever. It's neither here nor there. That dude turned his ankle something fierce a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of prognostications and what have you that, we're not seeing Julius Randle in round one. Now, again, that was a lot of guesswork because we didn't, nobody knows. But the fact that he came out and not only played in that game, but exerted his will by way of physicality on the game. And then to say nothing of the fact that he came out and scored, I believe it was 16 points in the first half, in a half that the aforementioned Jalen Brunson was in foul trouble. You cannot praise that enough, and how necessary all of those points were, and for him to kind of shoulder the load there. And so, yeah, he's going to get my game ball.
You knew he had to have been in some level of discomfort if Mr. First Quarter was not even able to play the entire first quarter.
Absolutely.
But I really actually liked what it inspired, which was Julius subbing into the second quarter, beating up on the bench for a larger extent. I mean, the Cavs still played a lot of their starters heavy minutes, of course, but there was a different dynamic there than we were accustomed to. And I thought it's kind of nice, cool. But even still, just the sheer dominance, that was the big fear of mine. If he's not playing, how do you, especially on a night when the Knicks weren't shooting the ball well, the attention that was focused there. And the defense just gravitating towards him.
Yeah.
Whereas if you
needed that,
and this isn't disrespect to Obi, who I thought had a really nice game,
wonderful game,
right? Like that's just not who he's going to be, and so it's just a different offense that's being run. So it was great to have him back there. Great that he's healthier. Knicks don't play till Tuesday, and then they have off until Friday. So there's time there for him to heal, for him to rest up and get better. I think that's a great choice, as well as Brunson. I think would have been maybe an obvious target, but I think the fact that he was limited, right? But the fact that he was limited by those 3 first half fouls and then none in the second half, which I thought was even better. I like the fact that you went with Randle. I think it's a good call.
Which leads us to detention, which, I mean, Andrew didn't do candidates for this. I think in light of the fact that Quentin Grimes not only played pretty outstanding defense, as far as I could tell, throughout the entire night, and then hit 2. I mean, you can't say enough about the clutch free throws he hits to ice the game. I don't think he's a candidate. I don't think anybody else that is not an obvious, like everybody, Mitch, rough first half, came back, played well. Hardenstein, good game. Like you just said, Obi, good game. All the usual, there's 2 guys, right? It's Manuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Are there any other candidates for this? Jeremy, what do you think?
But see, here's the tricky part for me, right? Every player where you could point to something they did wrong, you could say yes, but
yeah.
And it's not like there's one player that I agree stands out where we could, quote unquote, pick on them as the person who deserves detention. But if we are looking at the 9 players who played, and if we have to pick someone who fits into the detention box, and we each pick, then yeah, this is a long way of saying those. What?
Can we call Andrew up for an audible here?
Is this the idea of not doing a detention because the Knicks won a game, and when the Knicks go undefeated, we don't have it?
What's up?
Jeremy makes a great point, because even the players, can you also agree, as Jeremy did, there's only two candidates for this, right?
I love that this is how the conversation has gone, by the way, that even if you want to get out of detention, they won. So yes, it's those two guys. I agree with you.
Emmanuel quickly had as bad an offensive game as you'll ever seen him play. And yet defensively, I mean, the clip has been going around him snatching and I don't know. I still don't know how we got that rebound from Jared Allen. Like all the little Emmanuel quickly things that he does, certainly on the defensive end, were there. RJ, we're going to talk about RJ in a bit, but let's suffice it to say for now, did not have a top to bottom bad game. He shot it very poorly, and it was one bad turnover. So, like, I don't know. Do we have to? I feel bad giving out a detention this week.
All right. Audible. 2 more game balls. Go.
All right. I already sang Jalen Brunson's praises, so I'll give it to him. I'm curious where you go with this. This is tough.
It is
like
tough.
Three or four guys who could get this.
It is. But you know what? I'm going to go with Isaiah Hartenstein.
Really?
I am. I really am.
Well, tell me why.
An underreported thing, in my opinion, this was actually a revenge game for him. This is a revenge series. He was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I forgot that.
It's easy to forget. He had a cup of coffee with them, but
he was drafted by Houston, right?
Yes, he was
drafted by Houston. Then he went to a cup of coffee with Cleveland, and then LA. Okay, yeah.
So when Mitch didn't have it, Hartenstein did, and it seems that has been a consistent theme for whenever Mitch doesn't have it. That Hartenstein's right there, and we know that he's played 82 games. Now he's played his 83rd, the 83rd being in the playoffs. He's just he's old reliable. Right? Like, you know what you're getting from him. And even when he doesn't have the impactful games, you can still feel it. And there's just something about the way that in a game where Mitchell Robinson did not have, it was his first playoff game, you have Hartenstein coming in, who, by the way, really didn't have much playoff experience as well, right? Because this was because the Clippers had the play-in game last year, and then they did
play-in. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So for him to step up and also play the way he has with limited experience, I thought was fantastic. The floater still opens up so much more that's available. And one more thing I want to say, going back, because this isn't my guy, but because you talked about Randall, that offensive rebound at the end was just so
Hartenstein's.
I wanted to backtrack.
Yeah,
it dawned on me with the whole rebounding with Hartenstein. I mean, that it clinched it. I mean, Grimes, of course, had to hit the free throws, but it's just huge. But back to Hartenstein, thinking of the rebounding factor, just what the consistency he provided. I feel that's worthy of another game ball. So
much was the praise for Tibbs has been pretty universal, but the one nitpick is that left RJ in a couple possessions, maybe too long. But it wasn't only Grimes for RJ that he made with that sub. It was Hartenstein for Mitch. And I think after the Knicks had turned the ball over on a couple of straight possessions and then another one, they didn't get a great shot. So, like, again, that shows you how vital Tom Thibodeau thinks Isaiah Hartenstein is, to have another guy that is reliable enough that, like, look, if my point guard needs to dump it off to him at the top of the arc, it's not, because, and don't forget, I forget when exactly it was, but there was that possession where Mitch had the ball around like the top of the arc, and it was like, it felt like an eternity. It was probably only about 5 or 6 seconds, but like people were like running around like, okay, pass the ball. I couldn't get rid of the ball. Yep. So that was, you're not going to have that issue with Isaiah Hartenstein. I like it. It's a good pick.
Thank you. I think so too. I liked your pick.
Well, listen, a lot of praise to go. You win a road playoff game against a team that has the second best net rating in the league. A lot of praise to go around. Okay. We'll do this one quick. I think it's going to be a short discussion because I'm pretty sure we're on the same page. I brought this up. Josh Hart shot the 3-pointer to put the Knicks back up 2 after they had fallen behind, after they had what was really like it had gotten down to 5 before the Brunson step back. But for all intents and purposes, that was like an 8 to 10 point lead for the most of the fourth quarter, and they lost it. And then Hart's 3 puts them back up 2. I think it's the biggest shot, at least since 1999. Now we're not going to touch the Houston shot or the LJ 4-point play. the shot that, and this is unfair, and Andrew may need to come up for this, because the shot that a few people brought up, and it was the shot that was in my mind as well, and then Jeremy, I'm curious if you have any other contenders, was Game 7, Eastern Conference semifinals against Miami, the series I referenced earlier. Minute 20 to go, Patrick Ewing dunks the ball to put the Knicks back up 1 after Tim Hardaway Jr. had just hit. I always do that. After Tim Hardaway Sr. had just hit it. Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't think it was either. He wasn't born. He was very young. Tim Hardaway had just hit a 3 to give the Heat back the lead. And then, Ewing put him up and no points were scored in the final 80 seconds of that game. You have to go back at least to that point for me. I don't think all due respect to the Julia shot, all due respect to Linsanity, the game winner in Toronto. Couple people brought up some like shots against the Celtics in the playoffs and maybe in 2013. I don't know about that. I don't know. What is there like? Do you think it's the best shot since 99? What say you?
I do. And I don't think that should take away any of the great shots we've seen since then in the 24 years. We play for this, right? Or not we, but the players play for this. We watch.
That's a good line. No, we play for this.
We play for this. Yeah. You and me, scenario computers. That's what we do. Like, that's where legends are made. It's in the playoffs. And Linsanity, incredible run, right? We could talk about that. We could talk about Melo's Easter shot. We could talk about Julius's shot. I mean, there's so many others that I'm leaving out that were just great. David Lee tipping was a lot of fun. Like, all of these different memories that would evoke good feelings. But this is a satisfying one in a way that was, you lose a game in the 82, there's always the next one. Like, sometimes there isn't always the next one, especially when your back's against the wall. But generally speaking, the vast majority of these games, you're still in it and you have a chance. Every possession counts in the playoffs. Every single one. And so to see this one, when you're down, suddenly you've coughed up a lead when you were up by double digits, and they go, the Cavs are laying out on the floor and making high effort plays and tipping the ball in off offensive rebounds, all of that. It's just this shot, because I shudder to think about if that had missed. What happens after that? Right?
I know what happens. They don't win the game.
Well, I don't know about that, but the beauty of it, we don't even have to really decide about it. We don't have to think.
No, we don't have to wonder about it. Thank the good Lord.
The Knicks won the game because he made the shot. But if he hadn't hit the shot, I know my stomach's churning a bit. And then if they do lose, we're having a different conversation. This entire pod is, he had it. It was right there. But guess what? We don't have to discuss that.
We don't have
and that is why, to me, because of the significance of the playoffs and that shot and the beauty of it, I hope that is the least impactful big shot that the Knicks have this postseason, right? Because that would mean that there was at least one more. 99 had 2 of them. So, so we'll see. But
it'd be nice if they don't. It'd be nice if they don't need another shot of that nature to win the series. Something tells me they will need at least one more of that nature, but we'll see. It'll be the biggest shot since 99 for at least another 24 hours after we're done recording this, or 30. It's Sunday night, so we have a little while. We have 48 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Losing track of my days here. Hush your mouth, Andrew. I won't even say what he just put in the chat. Okay. 2 more topics and then we're going to get out of here.
You can't say I won't say what
you can't that. I'm
read something and then not. My only pushback to the notion of this is that it's game 1. It has a chance to be the biggest shot since 99, but like, you had to go look up those details of game 7, the Ewing shot, right? Like, you didn't remember the Ewing shot to put him up?
No, I remember the Ewing shot. I remember the exact time, but I remember the shot.
Made it 84-83. I remember the last minute and a half was not, there weren't any points scored, and it ended on a Clarence Weatherspoon jumper that missed, and then a Sprewell rebound and a timeout. Point being, like, the actual shot of the Josh Hart flipping the game.
Yes.
It has a chance to be if they end up winning the series because it turned the game around.
Yes.
But, like, what if they lose in 5?
But we're talking about in this moment, right?
I agree.
We're not talking about with the hindsight
now. Yes. I just
but that's
these
the
things need to age, I guess.
No, they don't. No, they do not. Since that has happened.
What happened in 2012? What did the Knicks season amount to in 2012?
But there wasn't a shot that was nearly as big to the level that this one was there.
Yes, the Jeremy Lin shot you just mentioned is what
in the playoffs, Andrew?
No.
Was there a playoff shot? You're right.
Jeremy,
exactly.
I'm making my point is that we remember that shot for how great it was. Not
we're not saying they
what it meant to the season or anything like that.
We're saying that impactfully, in this moment when we're looking at this shot that Josh Hart took was the biggest shot that we have seen since, in what is my opinion, 1999.
And I share Jeremy's opinion, so that means you're wrong, Andrew. And
yes, and we go by the democratic process here. Sorry, sorry,
I'm being waved off. Election wins out here. That said, speaking of needing to age, one more shout out to my friends at One Bev, Rusty Cigar, finishing off the bottle tonight. It ages like a fine wine. Hopefully the shot will as well. Okay, last two topics, and we'll get out of here. God, I don't even. Can we skip this topic? I guess we can. All right. Andrew he did write a little bit of an outline here. And the words I am reading are the RJ Barrett Rorschach test. So again, Rorschach, we've mentioned on this pod before. It's where you look at a blotchy blotch of ink and say, that's a butterfly, or that's a serial killer stabbing his mother, whatever. I don't know. I'm just going to ask you, what did you see when you watched RJ Barrett play basketball last night?
I saw.
That's the correct answer.
I saw. I don't want to sound like a centrist here. I saw good things and I saw some not so good things, but like
exceptional podcast,
right? It's just a way of words that I have. But just to take a step back from it before I get more into my train of thought, the Rorschach I think is the perfect comp for this because when I went online afterwards, like later at night, early in the morning. Why? Because I was genuinely curious what other people saw. It wasn't going to impact how I viewed it, but I just was curious. And it very much felt like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it felt like people saw what they wanted to see, which is then where the Rorschach comes into play. Again, like I thought the shot didn't fall, and that was a problem, right? But then he was able to have some impacts early in the game, very early in the game. I thought he was tremendous. And then I thought he let go of the rope a bit. I loved what he did guarding Darius Garland. Garland only took one shot. He made it, but I think it was like 7 minutes of action, RJ was on Garland. What I didn't love was the fact that the Cavs scored 37 points as a team when RJ was matched up with Garland, which was the second most of any of the 1v1 matchups that we have seen. So he did a nice job of neutralizing Garland, but the team's impact as a whole defensively, it struggled. And, that's like, again, we could talk about, okay, well, maybe like some of the effort plays, I didn't think they were the best. He also wound up with 5 deflections. That was the most in the entire game for either team. We're talking about a Knicks team that ranked dead last in deflections in the NBA this past season. So that's where I really struggle. It's yes, on paper, first thing you see, there's a lot of ugly RJ, but then there's some beauty that's in the ugliness, and we have to consider that. So that's where I'm very conflicted. But overall, I would say, if you had to say 1 to 10, 1 being that was egregious, 10 being that was a masterpiece, I'm at a 4, right? And I didn't love the pick and roll options that he also had as well defensively. But there was enough offense and the playmaking that I'm just like, it juices it up a bit where you're not quite at break even, but you're close. But if someone says, no, you're wrong, he was better than that. And if someone says, no, you're wrong, he was worse than that, which I guarantee you would absolutely happen to people who are listening to this. Mm-hmm. I get it. I completely get where you're coming from. It doesn't feel objective. It feels subjective in a sport where objectivity is so important. And it's hard for me to piece it together. That's the bottom line.
I can't possibly give a better answer than that.
I'm sure you can.
No, you nailed everything. And like the thing I do want to I feel like I have to go out of my way to agree with you on is there is a sentiment amongst RJ's biggest supporters, where it's like, well, why are you only focusing on the 2 for 12? What about all the other stuff? Which is not fair when you brought up the couple of instances where it sure looked like there were some effort plays to be had there, dive on the floor, get a loose ball in the first half that were not made. I went back and I didn't rewatch. I rewatched pretty much the whole game, but like not with a fine tooth comb, but just as I was going back and rewatching, like there was a Jared Allen offensive rebound late. It was one of the, I forget which it was one that it was in the fourth quarter. It was the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And like RJ, it was a broken play and like guys were rotating and it wasn't like RJ was like, that was clearly his man to box out, but he was the nearest Knick. And 2-3 feet away from him is Josh Hart, and his nearest player in a Cavs uniform was Evan Mobley. And there's Hart jumping. I mean, as you know, as high as he could jump, trying like hell, and he's not able to get to it, but he's given it everything he has because there's not a loose ball that Josh Hart, like he doesn't know how to ignore a ball that is in air, that is not in somebody's hands, and sometimes even when it is in somebody's hands. Now, that's a special quality, but when you're looking at these two things side by side, and one player's doing this, and there's RJ, I hate to say this, but this is literally what happened. He's kind of like escorting Jared Allen to the rim. He's like, yeah, he literally has his hand in his back, pushing him towards the basket. I don't know why, but like he didn't get in the scrum. It's stuff like that. And then like, again, there's stuff that doesn't show up on the box score. He had a really nice opportunity one-on-one. Darius Garland was guarding him. I want to say this was in the first half, and Garland just pokes the ball away and it goes out of bounds, and it's Knick ball again. But there's 4 seconds left on the shot clock. And it was, this may jog my memory of when it was, because it's then when Julius got the ball in the corner and ended up driving baseline and put a shot that went like over the backboard. But again, there was like 4 seconds left on the clock. But like, so that doesn't show up in the box score, but that's an instance where RJ had an opportunity, had the mismatch, tried to make something happen. Nothing happened. So it's like, I think it's unfair to just boil it down. Now, everybody's going to hear that, who's a big supporter of RJ, and be like, well, why don't you highlight the several other things that other players do that don't show up in the box score? And again, all of this is relative. It needs to be taken in context. Because when you take it all in context, there is a more complete picture of what these other players are able to do than what RJ is able to do. And because he did do some very nice things in other areas of the game, that's a very big bonus. And it is why nobody should be killing him today. But the fact is, if Quentin Grimes starts making some shots and Emmanuel quickly like slows down, downshifts a couple gears and gets into his usual flow, like I'll go back to the sentiment that existed before the series that we talked about and that other people talked about, which is like, what minutes should RJ Barrett be playing exactly? He's gonna play some minutes, but like, so I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the best I got.
No, it was well said, and the counter could be as well. You say if IQ or if Grimes starts hitting shots, if RJ hits those shots,
absolutely,
like he belongs
absolutely.
to. So, and like. My first game ball went to Josh Hart. Well, Donovan Mitchell torched Josh Hart, 7 of 13 shooting. So it's not like there, but you live with that, right? You live with that because the Knicks did a masterful job as well of sealing off a lot of the other options. And I subscribe to the idea where superstars are going to get theirs. Stars are going to get theirs, right? If the other guys are avoiding it, like how many misses did Okoro have in the corner? All of them.
It was all
to the point, right? To the point where it's just like, okay, this is not really an option because he's not doing anything on the offensive end, and he's not really helping out with the defense. So let's get Cedi Osman in there, who I thought was fine defensively. Brunson's just a far better offensive player than Cedi. He's a defensive player, and lo and behold, Brunson did a nice job against him. But yes, I'm with you with everything you're saying with RJ, and on to game 2.
All right. Very, very briefly, literally a sentence each before we finish up. A hope and a fear going into game 2. I could go first because I have two easy ones. My hope is that we see. This is just me. This is just my hope. My hope is that we see the version of Emmanuel Quickly that we saw for pretty much this entire year, because I think they're going to need that guy to win the series. I don't think they could win the series with Emmanuel Quickly playing poorly. My fear is that Evan Mobley, that was a work out the Kings game, and we're going to see a different Mobley moving forward. He did not have a good game one, and I would very much hope it stays that way, but I fear that it may not.
Is he going to roid up before then? Get really swole? Otherwise, that's
good.
He got manhandled by Randall on, especially on the free throw lines and trying to get the boards.
You're right.
I think those are great points. My hope, and this is really just a blanket one, the easy way of saying it is just the Knicks need to shoot better. The more thinking man might say Knicks shot 51.7% true shooting. That, for context, the Hornets had the worst true shooting percentage in the NBA this past season, and that was a 55%. The Knicks were 20th this past year, 57.7%. So they were woeful, and they still wound up winning this game. That's why the idea that the Knicks played some of their best offense, that was their best punch, not true at all. They struggled. Cavs did a really nice job, but the Knicks just also missed a lot of shots. They're shooting under 20% from three going into halftime. So that would be one. And I'm expecting bounce back, at least from hopefully one of the players that struggled in between RJ, Grimes, and Quick. And my fear, it's a Mobley fear, but it's not quite the same as yours. It actually has to do with Mobley's defense, specifically on Randall, which is that Randall went 7 for 20 in the game, and Mobley held Randall to 2 of 12. So as good of a job as Randall was able to do, all things considered, him being on Mobley actually did pose somewhat of a problem. So if the Knicks can find a way to switch in any way, get Randall away from Mobley, I think you can open up a lot more there. I'm not as, famous last words, Mobley's offense doesn't worry me in the way it might worry you, but his defense definitely does worry me when it comes to Julius Randle. So just get him away from him and we're good.
I fear that he's going to continue to get better on both ends, and like getting comfortable in the offense will only embolden his defense.
I'm not ready to coronate, but I hear you.
Yeah, no, not yet. But again, if there's a guy that I worry about, it's him. Okay, this was great. I think we covered all the bases. Hope you enjoyed this episode, everybody. We will be back with more fun and games. I think I'm recording with Benji tomorrow, so that'll be coming your way very soon. And then, of course, post-game show after game 2, and then onwards we go. Thanks, everybody, for checking out everything we did over the last week and the last couple of days. And, back more fun and games very soon. Peace out.